What's up, guys? It's your boy Mayhem Matthew. Today I got with me not a football player today. I got me a professional wrestler, Big Ben, Big Trouble, Ben
No,
Bishop. How you
yeah.
doing?
I'm doing great, Mayhem. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, I'm the size of a football player, but I decided to take another route. I decided to instead of falling down involuntarily, I fall down voluntarily now as a pro wrestler. But basically the same size as a football player. But thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here with you.
For sure. So let's get right on into it. What made you become a professional wrestler?
Yeah, so honestly, I've always been a fan. I've always loved pro wrestling since I was a kid. When turning on WCW in 1998, 99, and seeing guys like Kevin Nash and Psycho Sid, and obviously like Hogan, Scott Hall, Booker T, onto like Jeff Jarrett, guys like that, DDP, of course, too. WCW was what I started watching, then of course transitioned to also watching WWE, WWF at the time. And I've always been a fan. I've always kept up with it. I didn't have like a lot of friends that watched it. All my friends weren't really weren't wrestling fans at all. So it was just kind of something I enjoyed on my own. But and as through the years, I played basketball, so I didn't think about wrestling or anything like that. Played basketball through high school, through college, and then once college ended, I just became a real person, ended up working and all that stuff. And then one day in 2019, I was listening to Busted Open Radio, and Enzo was on Busted Open, and he was promoting a show that he was doing in right outside of Baltimore, where I was living. And nothing to do that night. I decided to go. Gilbert approached me at the show and said, "Are you a wrestler?" I said, "No." He said, "Do you want to be?" I said, "Sure, why not?" And then he introduced me to James Ellsworth, who is my trainer. And from that day forward, I started training. I trained the next day, and here we are, almost 6 years later to the day. So it's been a wild ride so far. And I'm really happy that I turned on Busted Open Radio that day, or I would never have done it. I never would have. So it was never a thing where I was just like, I'm gonna do this, or like I'm thinking about going to wrestling school. Like I didn't think about any of it. It just happened. And that's how I that was the test finally when I ended up believing in fate, because it was just a circumstance that had happened. So I was happy.
For sure. Would you say, turning on Busted Open Radio, would you say that was like your inspiration to getting on into professional wrestling, or do you like have a specific wrestler that inspired you?
Well, I mean, yeah, that I would say that was the reason I started. My favorite wrestler ever is Kevin Nash, though. So I've always kind of I was gravitated towards the bigger guys and seeing what they do. And Kevin Nash just being kind of having all that like aura, charisma, as well as being one of the smartest minds in wrestling when it comes to business. And what's cool now is that I've become very friendly with Nash. So when I see him at different shows, we'll talk. Actually, the last time I saw him was at WrestleCon and like about a month ago, and I was just standing around. It was after my WWE tryout, and I heard him yell out like, "Ben, how was the tryout?" Which I thought was really the fact that he knew that I had it, and that the fact that he cared enough to ask me. When in a crowd of people, when he was signing autographs, he took his time to do that. So, he's put over a lot of my stuff online. He really likes it. He thinks it's a great idea. So, it's really awesome when things like that happen. I know people say like don't meet your heroes or anything like that, but I'm happy I've been able to meet and become friendly with Kevin Nash.
For sure. You talk about your WWE tryout. Tell us how that went, and tell us, take us through that whole entire day leading up to it.
Yeah, so it's a few days. It's so really to start with, I had a tryout in 2021. It was about 2 days long, and definitely very, very, very tough. There's only 7 of us because it was during COVID. Very cardio intensive. So when I heard I had another one in May, I heard in May that I had it during SummerSlam week. So, and it was obviously ended up being in July. So when I heard that I was going to have one, I just started training, physically training like crazy, just really like doing a lot of cardio, getting ready, going to different training schools. I was able to go to a ton of schools in Florida, shouting out schools like the Foundation, which is a Steel School, Fighting Spirit, which is Pete Dunne's and the Grizzled Young Veterans School. I got to go to, I got to train at the Dungeon with Natty and TJ, and I am definitely forgetting one. It's gonna come to me, but I got in a yeah, the Fighting Spirit, Dungeon. Oh, and Hatchet Pro Wrestling in St. Augustine with Sam Shaw, Dexter Loomis, and John Davis as well. So I got to go to those different training schools, get some reps in, continuing my indie bookings as well. So it was a really busy 2 months. And I just wanted to be 100% prepared because I didn't want to be physically run down. I'm not a spring chicken. I'm 35 years old. But the body doesn't recover as much as it used to. So I had to make sure I was 100% ready. Chiropractor appointments, and then getting mentally ready as well because it's a long few days. So once the day came, the end of July, I got there. I felt confident. I felt ready to go. It was a great group, really good group. There was 51 of us, a lot more athletes. So it was about 34 athletes and 17 indie wrestlers from all over the globe. So it was a really, really awesome group. The people were great. It was physically tough, but it was very mentally tough because you had to be on. It was about 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on the Wednesday and Thursday, and then 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the Friday. So they were long days, and you had to be on. You'd be cutting promos. You had to have high energy the whole time. So, but I felt good. I felt good going into it. I felt good coming out of it. We have not heard anything as of now, so it's still up in the air. We'll see. At the end of the day, though, I'll be honest, if I do hear no, I'll be bummed. It's not something that I'll just be like, okay, whatever, everything's good. I'll be bummed, but I won't be devastated because I felt like I did my best, and that's all I could really ask for.
Yeah, for sure. That's. I mean, I would love to see you in WWE as well, and
Thank you.
you've been on TV before. AEW. You've
Yeah.
been on a few shows on AEW. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah. So AEW is great. I've had nothing but cool experiences there, and I've worked with some great people. So when I first was there in 2021, I got to work with Bear Bronson, one of the coolest guys in professional wrestling. I'll put him over to the day as long. He's a he's a great wrestler. He's only gotten better. I love what he's doing right now on the independent scene and really coming into his own. And then the year after that, I got to work with Preston Vance when he was 10. So he still had the mask on. Another awesome talent, still there, still doing it, has a cool gimmick now with a buddy of mine, Jack Jameson. So I really hope the best for those guys as well to keep growing as wrestlers and performers. And then my latest was actually those two were on AEW Dark, and I thought Dark was a great idea, especially for indie wrestling, getting a lot of indie wrestlers on the map and giving them a platform. So I think that is something that is one of the top accomplishments of AEW and what they've done for wrestling is AEW Dark. And people think it's like, oh, it was just a bunch of squash matches, this, that, and the other. It's like, no, but a lot of indie wrestlers get to be seen by a lot of people who didn't know who they were. I still have people to this day talking about AEW Dark to me. So I think that was really awesome that was something that they were able to bring to the mainstream. Now my last time I was there, yes, that was actually on TV, and that was on Rampage, and I got to work with Roderick Strong, one of the best all around wrestlers in the past 20 years, like technically. So that was really cool. It was obviously a short match. It wasn't much, but going into it, I knew that's what it was going to be. I knew that it wasn't going to be we weren't going to go out there and have like a 15-minute, 20-minute match on TV. It was going to be short. So the big thing is I told myself is, you got to find a way to get over. You got to find a way to maximize those minutes, which I felt like I did. And I ended up doing I had that cheesy little pose and I got some things over and I ended up using it to create content. And that was able to kind of after that started blowing up a bit because I've been doing content up to that point for about a year and it was getting some views and people were seeing it, but not as many. And then the AEW Rampage appearance really helped me a lot. So I really thank everybody involved for allowing me to have that match, especially Sean Dean, who invited me that day, Captain Sean Dean. And because without that, I don't think I would have been able to continue reaching the success I've gotten to and been able to build off that opportunity.
Yeah. So you mentioned creating content. Now, you've been going viral on at least on my side of things with the tribal Keith persona.
Yeah, yeah. So I like to have fun at the end of the day, Matt. And when I did that originally on Labor Day, on Monday, literally 2 days ago, I was like, because the night before, to even backtrack a little bit more, the night before I really called my shot. I said, I have a video in the drafts right now that I'm hesitant to post because it's going to get some people angry. But I thought it was going to get some fans angry, being like, oh, here's Ben Bishop making fun of fans again, which at the end of the day, like people, it's satire. It's supposed to be funny. We're supposed to be able to laugh at ourselves. I'm not making fun of anybody personally. I mean, look at The Simpsons when they depict a guy like Comic Book Guy. Is anybody yelling at them because Comic Book Guy looks and talks the way he does? No. Like it's just satire. Nobody should take it personal. I'm the least serious person, so I can laugh at myself too. Like I'm not. It's totally okay. But so I thought that was going to be the outrage. Was going to be people thinking I'm all making fun of the fans. So I'm like, you know what? Whatever. I'm going to post it. Like, and I'll ask for forgiveness later if I need to. And and then for some reason, people thought it was real. thought I was a real person. And I was floored because I was like, this is a shitty filter. I had a fart noise in there and people ran with it and thought that character, that person was real. So they were mad at that guy, not mad at me, but mad at that guy, whoever they thought it was. And I was like, it's me. It's me with a filter. So I mean, yeah, it got up to almost really, I mean, combined, and then Ringside News. Like, come on, Ringside News. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you're supposed to be like this wrestling journalism site, and you thought that was real? Give me a break, dude. Like, it's hard to believe them at this point. And they've even put something out this morning that's not true either, but I'm not going to get into that. So yeah, I was, and so then I was like, you know what? Me being me, I'm gonna run with it because I take it from like the Cardona playbook. It's like just if something works, keep going with it. Don't just stop. So I I made the video yesterday, and I have more ideas for Tribal Keith. There's got to be some slight changes to it after talking to a few people, but it's gonna be pretty funny, and I got some good, cool things planned with it. So that's been the thing with me is that I believe wrestlers need to embrace social media and they need to embrace making content and not just posting your matches or your moves or anything like that. That's great. Obviously, that's the most important thing, but people want to be entertained. They're not going to sit there and watch your 20-minute wrestling match. Short form content is key these days. So making content, engaging with fans, giving them something that they can like either laugh at or have an emotional attachment to. That it's so important. I see a lot of people giving it a shot now. Like Richard Holiday has done a great job of embracing social media and creating more content. I know I'm missing a bunch of people who are working on it too. But I tell everybody, it's tough because wrestling, you just want to be like, well, I want to get over in the ring. I want to get over as a good wrestler. That's important to me. And like, yes, of course that's important, but you need to understand that only it's on indie wrestling. Not many people, like there's a few companies, the companies like GCW and Defy and Beyond and DPW, are the ones that are really, really good on social media and will get your stuff out there, but those are few and far between. So a lot of indie companies aren't social media savvy like those companies are. And so if you go to an indie show and you kill it, you have a banger, you get all your shit in and everything's great, maybe 250 people saw that, and maybe one tweets about you and says, "Oh, I saw Ben Bishop today and he was great." And 100 people follow that person, and you just, and that's it. Like, it just kind of, you can retweet it, maybe get a few likes out of it, but it's not it. That's all people are going to see. Maybe a video of your entrance or something, and like, great, that's great and all, but no one's going to see it. So by posting content, I'm getting, like, even this last week alone, like averaging about 25, 30K thousand video, like, views per video. And that's way more than obviously are at indie shows. So it's just getting your name out there. And a lot of people say that. It's like, I've seen your videos. I haven't seen your wrestling yet. I'm like, yeah, well, I post my matches, but it's not, people aren't going to sit there and watch a 20-minute match. They're not going to. Like, there's so much other stuff people can watch nowadays, but they're not going to just be like, oh, let me watch this indie guy's match. I need to get them invested in me first so that they will watch the match, because they're not just going to be going through Facebook and be like, oh, look at this random guy, Ben Bishop. I'm going to watch his match. No one's going to do that. Very few people are going to do that. So you have to get them invested in, I have to get them invested in me so that they will eventually do that. And I think that's what a lot of indie wrestlers have backwards, where it's like, I'm just going to post my matches, post some moves, post that, so people be invested. Everyone's doing the moves. Everyone's posted matches. So you need to get them interested in you so that they will click on that match.
Now, you mentioned Matt Cardona. Do you think he is kind of like the one that really embraced social media the most? Like, at first, you think he was kind of like the one that inspired everybody to kind of start doing the social media thing?
I think he's like the godfather of it. He was able in like 2011. He just said to himself, like, I'm not where I want to be. I'm not getting the attention I want. What else can I do? And he had to take things into his own hands. And that's when he started embracing, YouTube and the Z Long Island story and doing all that type of stuff. And it worked out great for him. And he built an organic following based on that. And now to this day, he is one of the best at getting eyeballs on himself. No matter, his savviness on social media is amazing. And I've really noticed, I've really taken kind of his playbook and tried to emulate it as best as I can. And we've had discussions. Me and Matt are friendly, and we actually have a match coming up in a month in Milwaukee. But I know he respects kind of what I've been doing, and he sees it, and he says, like, that's what you got to do. And Matt's a guy who doesn't sugarcoat anything. Like, he won't tell you you're great. He won't tell you you're doing good if you're not, if he doesn't believe it. He won't put people over if he doesn't believe in what you're doing or what you're putting out there. So what he's been able to do has really set the tone for a lot of other wrestlers. So I already mentioned Richard Holiday and what he's doing, and he's doing something very similar. Obviously Jack Vaughn as well, who came before me in making these videos, and me and Jack are very friendly and both respect what each other are doing. He's a great guy. But then you look at other guys who went viral on social media, like, the Danhausens of the world, and what he's been able to do, the Joe Hendrys, of course, as well, of the world, and what Joe Hendry's been able to do. And we all are in the same boat, where it's like, a lot of people will say, like, oh, I know who Joe Hendry is, but then you say, okay, what's his finishing move? And they'll say, oh, I have no idea. Like, I've never seen a Joe Hendry match. I just know Joe Hendry. I know the song. I know the entrance. Right. With me, they're like, oh, I've never seen a Ben Bishop match, but I know the Shindy promoter. I know Tribal Keith. I know the jokes and the skits, but I've never seen a match. And people say that about Jack Vaughn. People say so. That's that's the thing, is that's how you hook. That's how you're gonna hook. That's how you're gonna hook people. So, matches are important. Of course, the wrestling's important, but it not if you're not engaging and people don't want to. If people don't want to like you, they're not going to like you. So it takes, you gotta make them like you first before they're going to be interested in your wrestling, especially as an indie guy when you're not on TV.
For sure. Going back to wrestling for a second, what is your favorite Ben Bishop match?
Yeah. I've this year alone, I've had the opportunity to work with some absolutely incredible wrestlers. And very fortunate. A lot of former WWE guys like AJ Francis, Matt Riddle, recently have gotten to work with who's some other, Bishop Dyer, formerly known as Baron Corbin. Loved that match. Loved all those matches, and I couldn't be happier. But definitely my favorite match I've had this. Well, I've my favorite match I've had is with Nick Nemeth. So I've had two matches this year with Nick. Just one of the most consummate professionals, one of the best professional wrestlers over the past 20 some odd years. The guy can do it all, and he unfortunately is just so good at making other people look good. And that's one of the best traits to have as a pro wrestler. I worked with him in March in Maryland, and then just a few weeks ago in Kansas as well. So that's the top of the list. And what a great human being, amazing wrestler, even better human being. It was truly an honor to work with him. So I'd put that up there.
For sure. So, what is your favorite, just your favorite match in general, like of all time?
Of all time, I would probably say my favorite match of all time is probably Diesel versus Bret Hart at Survivor Series 95. So I thought that match was great. I thought the finish was incredible with the small package roll up out of nowhere. Really, I always say, people ask me like, who would you want to wrestle, in any time era or any time period. And a lot of people usually always say like their favorite wrestler. But and Bret Hart was never my favorite wrestler. Like, I was never a Bret Hart fan, right? But once I became a wrestler, I respected Bret Hart. Obviously, I've always respected Bret Hart, but I respected him and what he can do in the ring. And so I'd say if I could pick anybody in the history of wrestling to work with, it would have been Bret Hart, because I think he was the best at making it make sense versus big men. And he had some great matches with big men. Uh, Obviously, Psycho Sid, Kevin Nash, Yokozuna, so I think that would have been who I'd pick of somebody I'd always wanted to work with.
For sure. So before I let you go, do you have anything else that you want to, let people know, or?
Yeah. Yeah. So, anybody, can follow me at Big Trouble BB. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I'm all over. I don't really hide. I love engaging with everybody. As long as you're respectful, I can joke around, I can have fun, but do it in a respectful way, because I will come back at you. I'm not afraid to. Um, I always say that, I think social media is obviously a great place. I also think it's a horrible place, and you got to take the good with the bad. It's something that is now allowed people to get very close to wrestlers, but don't disrespect the parasocial relationship that you have. There's still boundaries, and I tell people that every day. I've had to set a few with people about reaching out and either getting a little too comfortable, or so I always tell people, just err on the side of caution there. But other than that, I got a lot of awesome events coming up. I'm going to post my September schedule today. Some great events that I have next week in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, next Thursday, where I will be wrestling on the University of Alabama campus, which is pretty cool. So that's going to at a bar there. So I'm excited to see that. I've never seen that campus before. So that'd be pretty, I'm a sports fan, so it'd be pretty cool to see the stadium and all that stuff. Then I get to wrestle on Saturday of next week. I'm wrestling Psycho Clown in Texas, which will be interesting. So then I'm not a lucha guy, but we'll see how that goes. I'm sure it'll be great. I know he's an absolute superstar, so should be pretty fun down in Texas. Then I got a full schedule: Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Tennessee, North Carolina. I'm not a 30-miler guy. I go everywhere. So it's funny. I live in Georgia, but I don't have one booking this month in Georgia. Everything is all over the place. So keeping busy, having fun. I'm posting a lot of my stuff. So, if people want to ask, like, hey, where are you going to be? Please ask me. But I'm always posting stuff. I'm always promoting my shows. So keep on top of that. And other than that, man, no, I got nothing else. I really appreciate you having me on here.
For sure. One really quick question.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, I meant to ask it before. I apologize, but so you had a small role in Young Rock. How
Yeah.
was that? And how did that come
Yeah.
together?
Yeah, so they filmed Young Rock season 3 in Memphis because Rock had a lot of ties to Memphis. So I was working for Memphis Wrestling at the time, and they were looking for wrestlers to be on the show. And I was fortunate enough to be chosen to be on. I got to be wrestling. I had a credited part, but as wrestler number 2, I actually had my own dressing room, which was cool. Well, it was like a trailer, but it was a tiny little room in a trailer. But that was pretty sweet. Wrestler number 2, it was in a battle royal scene. It was about 30 seconds. But what was cool is The Rock narrated over it. So that was pretty awesome. So I'll always have that clip. And it was a episode that was highlighting Pat Patterson in his younger days in the 60s in San Francisco. So I got to that was pretty cool. I didn't get to meet The Rock or anybody else, but the actors were there the actor who played his dad. The actor who played Rock wasn't there. But got to meet some really cool people. Got to work with Chavo Guerrero, who was the one running like the stunts, who did the stunts for the show. And he's a great guy. Really, really was cool to get to know him. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun. And get to be on national TV. Unfortunately, Young Rock's not on anymore. But what's cool is I still get some royalty checks from SAG every quarter, so which is funny. They go down every quarter. It's not as much as the quarter before, but it's cool to just to be like, hey, that's a pretty fun accomplishment. One of the things I always say, Matt, is like, as wrestlers, our problem a lot is that we look too far into the future, and we don't sit back and smell the roses at times. All we think about is like, what's next? If I need to be signed, I need to be signed. All that gets into your head, and it clouds your present at the current time. So I've really tried to focus in the past year of staying in the moment. And a wise man once told me, a watched pot never boils. So if you sit there and all you're doing is waiting for it to happen, you're going to miss a lot of the cool stuff that's happening. Like being on Young Rock, like getting to do AEW extra work, or getting to be on TV, getting to do stuff like I got to do stuff with Barstool Sports. I've gotten to work out with DDP at his house. I get to meet guys like Kevin Nash, heroes of mine. Getting to work with guys like Nick Nemeth, Matt Riddle, Baron Corbin, or Bishop Dyer now. It's like those are cool moments that not everybody gets to have. Even having a WWE tryout, whether it works out or not, that's a moment not a lot of people get to have. Getting to have a match in front of Shawn Michaels. Like that's something that a lot of people will never be able to do. And so I got to appreciate that, because it's part of my journey. And at the end of the day, I'm doing something that a lot of people dream of. And if I don't appreciate it, I'm doing everybody else a disservice, and I feel like I'm being a jerk. So I need to sit back and appreciate things sometimes.
For sure. And one last question before we go. Tell us some of your biggest accomplishments and wrestling, like titles, championships, and just accomplishments in general.
I mean, everybody talks about titles and stuff. I'm not a big title person. I don't really think of that as like my biggest accomplishment thus far is really being able to organically build my brand without the need of a giant, like, backing of a giant company. I've been able to do it organically, which is extremely hard to do. You know, I don't have any big conglomerate reposting my stuff or anything like that that has a ton of views. I've been able to do it on my own. I've been able to do it originally and organically. And I that is what I'm most proud of. And now, like, going to shows, going to conventions, and having, even at WrestleCon, having people just come up to me asking, "How was the tryout?" "Oh, I'm a big fan of your content." And these are people that I've watched on TV. Like, these are people coming up to me and introducing themselves to me and saying, "I love your stuff." And I'm like, "I know who you are." You know, like, it's funny. It's funny. Like, I have had guys from AEW, WWE, TNA walk up to me and be like, "Oh my God, I'm such a big fan of your content. I love what you do." And I'm just like, you're saying that to me. I'm not signed. I don't have, I'm just an indie wrestler, but they love it. And I think that's been an accomplishment of mine. And I've really been happy, and able to, give myself the proverbial pat on the back for that, because it is tough. And I'm very humble. You know, I'm not, I have a persona that I'm not humble, but I am. At my heart, I'm very, very humble. I'm not, I don't toot my own horn nearly enough as people tell me to, like, really say, like, it's like, dude, you're doing a good job. But I'm like, yeah, I'm doing okay. I always say that I'm doing good. I'm doing all right, but I gotta sit back and, give myself some grace. And that would be my biggest accomplishment. I mean, the titles are cool. I've won some titles, tag team titles, like heavyweight titles, whatever have you, all that type of stuff. But when it comes down to it, my biggest accomplishment to date is being able to build my brand.
For sure. And go follow Ben Bishop on all the social medias, wherever you find him, wherever you want to watch your social media. And I really appreciate you coming on today. And man, I'm a really big fan. Yes, I did see you first on social media, like you had said before, but I have seen some Ben Bishop matches, and y'all need to go check him out. So, with that being said, if you like this content, please smash the thumbs up. And if you really like the content, hit the subscribe button.
All right. Thank you so much, Matt. I appreciate you, pal.